Home sellers around the country right now are struggling. Their houses are sitting on the market and not selling. If you're one of them, I'm going to show you how to actually fix it. There are 4 reasons that a house doesn't sell. The first and most obvious being pricing. Second, we have condition of the property. Third, we have how it was actually marketed for sale. And fourth, we have timing. I'm going to walk you through each one and what to do to fix it and how to figure out what your property's problem is or was. The first one that you really don't want to talk about is pricing. There's the old adage of a property is only worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. The reality, though, is it's not that simple. Properties can be priced well and still not sell. More often than not, price does solve most issues. So if you have a property that's in rough shape, that's been sitting on the market, not selling, the logical answer is probably going to be reducing the price. But for most homes in decent shape, that's not the only answer. When it comes to pricing, chances are that you probably hired a real estate agent that sat down, opened up a nice little pamphlet and walked you through what properties near yours were selling for and what they thought you should price your home at. One of the challenges that we see here is often agents do what we call buying a listing. They encourage you to list it for more than it realistically should sell for in order to get the business. When my wife and I sold our last house in Florida, our agent suggested that we list it $25,000 higher than I thought made sense. When I pointed that out, he said, "Oh, thank goodness, you're right. Let's list lower so it sells faster." I'm glad I'd done my own research and not just taken his advice. It's worth noting that the average real estate agent doesn't really do that many deals. So if you hired, your sister's cousin's friend who's only done 1 or 2 deals, chances are you might have not gotten some great advice, even though they're licensed. One of the agents that works with us recently did 26 transactions in the past couple months. Her expertise is going to be dramatically higher than somebody that does 1 or 2 a year. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you how we price our properties so you can look at your house and how it's stacked up against the competition and decide if you were overpriced or not. When it comes to the second reason properties don't sell, condition, a lot of folks don't realize just how dramatically this impacts what a property should sell for. Now, there is one caveat here. If you're in like an A-class area with fantastic schools, oftentimes the difference between a property that's been remodeled and one that's like grandma nice, it's been maintained, it's in great shape, it's functional, it's livable, there's really not that much of a difference. But if you go from not so nice of an area or like nice property to, hey man, this thing really needs some elbow grease, there's going to be a pretty dramatic spread there. And that's one of the challenges with listing a house for sale is a lot of retail real estate agents don't know what things cost. They don't really understand how it impacts property values. Oftentimes they'll pull comps and they'll say, hey, it's in the same area, it sold for this, so you can get that, without understanding like, well, they put $50,000 into that house in order to get that sales price. The reality of the situation is you have to be priced appropriately for the condition of your property and the location that it's in. The third reason that properties don't sell is marketing. Back in 2020, 2019, 2021, when rates were 2%, a real estate agent could literally take like iPhone photos, be super lazy in the description on the property, throw it on the MLS, do nothing else, and it would sell overnight. That's kind of how things work when you're in a buyer's market. But in a lot of our markets, it's transitioned to more of a seller's market. So we have to operate with excellence in the marketing of a property. When you think about it, this is kind of sales 101. We want to present your property in the best light possible. We want to create desire and demand and move it quickly. The best way to do that is by pricing it appropriately for the condition and marketing it well at the best time of year, which we'll touch on here in a second. A couple kind of just quick tidbits that you could check to see was your home marketed appropriately or not is take a look at your listing photos. Your real estate agent should not be taking photos themselves. You shouldn't be able to see them like in the mirror in the pictures in your bathroom. And you want to make sure all of the basics are done. The lights should be turned on throughout the property in the listing photos. You'd be surprised, but a lot of agents don't even flick them on. Things like toilet seats are down. You might have to do a little bit of decluttering. One thing we'll often see is people have family photos everywhere. And I love that you love your family and your children, but it's hard for it to feel like somebody else's home if it's filled with somebody else's memories. Photos should be taken at like golden hour, which is 30 minutes after sunrise or 30 minutes before sunset. Lights should be on, professional camera, wide angle about chest height, showing really the expanse of the rooms. If you do want to do some retouching on those photos, there's a fantastic website that we use called Box Brownie. We're not affiliated in any way, shape, or form, but we personally use them and it's a good resource for you and your agent to be aware of. One thing you might also consider if your home is completely empty is also doing some staging. There's two styles here. We do a lot of light staging. So after a remodel, we're gonna hang up shower curtains and put up hand towels and put out soaps, might put some flowers on the countertops, bowls, kind of just light, like home goods style decoration. Something you can do yourself over the course of a couple hours on a weekend. The other option is going and doing full-blown staging. There's companies that do this. They'll bring in furniture. The most kind of common areas that you stage are going to be the primary bedroom, the kitchen, the living room, the dining room, and maybe like one or two of the bedrooms. You don't have to do everything, but it does make it feel a little bit more homey for people that don't have a great imagination. You might have to do a little bit of work to get your property sold. We once had a property we listed on the market and it didn't sell. We took it off market over the course of a weekend, painted the property, raised the price to offset the cost of the paint and the labor, and the property sold within 24 hours. People just didn't have the imagination to see it painted not funky colors, so we did it for them. Common light renovations that you might need to consider doing would be like paint and flooring. Another big thing we see is anything that makes the property not financeable. So there are certain standards that mortgage companies want to see in order to loan on a property. That includes no peeling paint, a roof that doesn't leak, a hot water heater that works, as well as functional air conditioning. If you don't have those items handled, you might have to sell the property either for substantially less or to an investor off market. The next one that we've got is timing. Timing is unfortunate because often we list a home about when we're hoping that it sells. But if you list your home, say over Christmas, you're gonna lose out on a lot of that early momentum versus if you list your home in spring when people are starting to move. Ideally, what we want is the home is priced right for the condition, it's marketed well, and we list it at the right time. What that results in is you end up with a lot of people interested, a lot of showings, and it sells quickly. We recently had a home that one of our locations in Nashville completed that they listed on a Friday or Saturday, and it was under contract by Monday. Multiple people were interested, offering more than what it was priced at, and the property sold, I think, about a week later. So properties do still get bidding wars even in 2026 if they're priced well for the condition and marketed appropriately. So while timing of year also makes sense, also there are times that we have a lot going on in the news and people are hesitant. For instance, back in 2019, when what happened, folks were pretty hesitant to move right away. They were hesitant to even go outside. Similarly, right now, you've got tariffs, you've got war, you've got political unrest, ICE, you have all of this going on. And for a lot of folks, that makes them feel like maybe now is not the right time to make giant life moves. So some of that can also impact this, even though it's outside of your control. So let's talk about what the options are to sell your house. If you're sitting here and you're like, I want to sell, I tried the thing and it didn't sell. Well, first and foremost, your agent should be working the snot out of the leads that reached out to them. That's any person that called them. That was interested in your property. That's every showing that happened. That's every agent that showed it. They should be coming back to you with feedback of, here's what folks are saying. You're not going to get a 1-to-1 ratio of did a showing what the feedback was, but that should kind of be the goal you strive for. Very often we have folks that walked through a home, were maybe interested in it, maybe they had some complaints or things you could fix, but if your agent isn't doing that actual working of those leads, it's very likely that you're not going to get that person to come back and make the offer. Keep in mind, it only takes one person to like your house to buy it. Recently, my folks were downsizing and they listed their home, they had one showing, they got one offer, and that was the guy who bought it. One other thing you might just want to check is call your agent from a different phone number. Do they respond? What's their tone? What's their attitude? Did they get back to you or not? A lazy agent could be the reason your house didn't sell. If your house didn't sell and you've worked all the leads, you have a couple different options. 1, you can relist at a lower price. 2, you can relist in different condition. 3, you could relist at a different time. Maybe it's just not now in your market and you need to try again in a couple months. Or you could relist with better marketing. My wife's grandparents once had a triplex that they were trying to sell in Indiana. The agent who had it listed took one photo of the outside. The description didn't include anything about what it was rented for, how much money it was throwing off, which is what an investor is going to want. And spoiler, he wasn't able to sell it. I was able to sell it for more than what he had it listed for, just with good photos and a good description. You also have the option of blending a couple of those strategies. Maybe you price it a little bit more competitively and you do a little bit of a lipstick remodel. The last option you have is selling the property to an investor off market for cash. Now, we are cash home buyers, but we're also licensed agents. So our approach at SoldFast is we're going to walk you through all of your options. What we could pay cash, what we think your home will sell for on the market in its current condition, as well as if you wanted to put some work into it, what those numbers look like. Are you going to get more for it, or is it not really worth doing a crazy remodel? One other thing we could do is list the house for you. And if it doesn't sell, simply buy it. We do that pretty often with folks that are doing like a job transfer or building a new home. Now, we're currently active in 18 different cities. We might not be active in yours. Not all cash buyers are created equal, and most of them aren't licensed. I'll put out another video on how to tell if a cash buyer is legit or not, but if we're active in your market, we'd love the opportunity to serve you. We're Better Business Bureau accredited and 5-star reviewed, and our priority really is the communities we live in, not turning profits on houses. I'm gonna now hop into my computer and I'm gonna walk you through exactly how we price the properties that we are selling. Let's say for the sake of this example that your home is in 63304, which is in St. Louis, Missouri, where I grew up. And what we're going to do is look at what is currently listed and see how we stack up. Now, something I would recommend and something your agent should do with you as well, you should also look at what is pending and under contract. What something sold for 6 months ago is less relevant than what is selling right now. What are people expressing interest in right now? I would go to the more section on Zillow. I would add pending and under contract. What we're then going to do is go in, try and kind of pull a range of similar properties. I'm going to say for the sake of this example that we're looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. One thing to note, a 2-bath home is going to sell for dramatically more than a 1.5-bath home. A 2-bedroom home is less desirable than a 3-bedroom. So if you have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, you really can't look at what 3-bedroom, 2-baths are selling for and think that that's comparable, even if square footage is similar. But let's assume we've got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. We're going to just look at the houses. So change that under house type. And then lastly, let's assume that your home is 1,500 square feet. So we're going to look at things slightly smaller, all the way up to slightly larger, and we're going to click apply. Now, if your market's like St. Louis, where there's a lot of new constructions and your home isn't new construction, I would also take that out. So under listing type, you can remove all of the new construction. What we can see here is there are 9 properties for sale that are about that size, about that bed and bath layout. So what we want to do is look at what properties are selling for and what they're listed for and see how you stack up. Chances are if you couldn't sell your house, it was priced too high for the condition or it was just marketed terribly. But as we hop in here and look, we can see, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes really appear to be selling in the mid-3s in some of these areas. We can see the cheapest home is this 5-bedroom, 2-bath, which is currently listed at $250. So we'd want to hop in and look at these photos and honestly have the conversation with ourselves of how do we stack up. One thing I would note, this is only a 1-car garage. So if your home has a 2-car garage, it's probably going to sell for more than this place would. What I personally like to do is I want to be the best priced, nicest option for people in that area. We would also want to look at like what is closest to your house. So for instance, if I was over in this area, I'm going to focus more on these 2 houses and care a little bit less on, what's over here on the other side of the highway. Now, if we want, we can hop in here and we can take out what's pending. It's good to see what stuff is pending, but let's see what the actual options are. And there's only 3. So all I would need to do is go through these 3 photos and decide how my home stacks up. This one looks pretty nice. Looks like probably it was a newer built home. If I'm them, I don't love this photo with all of that streaking on the wall. It could just be like a glitch or an edit, but it almost looks like water damage in their photo to me. But this looks like a pretty nice home, so it's probably not water damage, pretty decent. Chances are if I've got a grandma nice place though, this would be substantially nicer. It's also considerably more expensive than the other options, and they've been dropping the price on it, which would indicate we probably don't want to use that as the benchmark for where we sell. So chances are I'd be looking at these other two options. If my home is a 2-car garage home, this would be really the only one out of the 3 that I'd be looking at. And this is really kind of the benchmark that I'm competing with is my house nicer than this one? Or is it in a better area than this one? Or is it priced better? In an ideal world, we're slightly nicer and we're cheaper. I like when my stuff sells quick and without drama or hassle. And I kind of want all the other agents, all the other homeowners when my property comes on market to be like, wow, dang it, we gotta wait till that one sells. The elephant in the room here is my advice is coming from a place of I've bought and sold hundreds of houses. When I sell my own properties, not homes that I've bought from families, I tend to also have similar feelings to you of I want to get as much money as possible. I definitely want to get back everything that I put into it. I definitely want to sell it for more than what I bought it for. But the reality is if 2008 taught us anything, properties don't only go up in value. Sometimes if we need to sell a certain amount of time, we're breaking even on it, or maybe we're even losing a bit. But if you got to sell, you should know how to price it. If we haven't met yet, my name is Ryan Dossi. I'm the co-founder of SoldFast. I've been licensed since 2016, and I've personally remodeled hundreds of houses. If you've tried all of the above and you truly cannot sell your house and you have to keep it and you can't afford to stay in it or you need to move somewhere else, there are a couple other options. You could convert it into a long-term rental, which is not for the faint of heart. You could convert it into a short-term rental, something like an Airbnb. It's a hospitality business. It's very different than just keeping it as a rental. Or if you truly are upside down, you might need to explore a short sale with your bank. In the comments below, I'm going to pin a link to a blog post from us on how those options work and kind of what next steps for you would be if that's the position that you find yourself in. Thank you guys for taking the time to hang out with me today. If you haven't already and you're looking for more real, actionable, in the trenches tips for homeowners, be sure to like the video and subscribe. That way you're notified when we put out new content. Hope you have a blessed day. We look forward to hearing from you soon.